very taken with Adrian's understanding of the classics, but also his desire to learn more himself. And I think that is the best definition that I could ever give of an instructor, a professor, or a teacher, that you want to learn more yourself. Because learning is something that is a 24/7 commitment. Now, I'm thrilled that he asked me to be here today and just say a few things to the community about how I feel about children and education and the critical need of the world for leaders and leadership, which only stems from getting and providing the right kind of education. Democracy and individual freedom are dependent on thinking and not control. If you can think and if you can perceive what truth really is, this is the bedrock of individual freedom and liberty. And all you have to do is to take that capacity away. A child is born with a natural instinct to create and the skills to do it. I'm a champion of children. I thought, and I was telling Greg and Adrian last night about, I have 6 grandchildren. And before I tell you this story, by the way, I should tell you just a little bit about my involvement in starting schools myself. So I've started 4 schools, one in Concord. It's called the Rivendell School. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was for at-risk youth. I started the first school without doors in Boston called the Learning Guild, which sent students out into the community to learn from the police department, the fire department, public libraries, basically to learn from people who are actually doing things. That was really a thrill. Another school that I started was the Challenger Memorial Space Science Education Schools. We grew to 48 schools around the world because other nations wanted this as well, and it was the initiative of the families of the Challenger astronauts that went down. You remember Challenger had a teacher in the capsule, and their idea was they wanted to continue the lesson. Because remember, the teacher was going to do lessons from space, right? So we put together curriculum so that what we could do is what was called continue the mission. Creating these schools, I went to Disney Imagineering and I had them design not only the curriculum, but a space capsule. So kids could actually go into a mocked up space capsule and they could learn how to fly. And they could learn how to apply the science of aeronautics and space. And kids just love this. So again, this is the application of science. Kids learn by doing. As you all know, any of you who've had children, you know it's all about doing, right? They want to do things. But to get kids into the position of where they're learning by doing and actually thinking is the way that they really create a solid basis for living and for their life and for their careers. So at Challenger, I got the owner of USA Today to commit, $1 million himself to the Challenger schools. And then every day he had a banner, this is for maybe a year, a banner on the newspaper, and kids sent in their, what we used to call milk money. So the chairman of Challenger, who was the wife of the captain of Challenger, we used to go to the post office and we would collect these massive bags of envelopes. And we would sob opening these bags of mail because you would see kids writing in their own hand, I want to give you my 25 cents. I want to give you my $1. I want to give you a dime because we need this so much. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I mean, we would dump these huge mail bags, weighing hundreds of pounds on this table, and we would actually count the money coming in. It was the kids that wanted it. What do kids want in education today? They want to learn these things. And what did he say? What did you say? Money. Okay, it's all about money, right? See, he caught on to that, right? That experience, and then I started a school for world problem solvers. So that was a UN school, and the idea was that kids of all ages have ideas about world peace, about solving problems. And it's an interesting idea. It doesn't exist anymore, but it's sort of like I was telling my friends last night about I have 6 grandchildren, and I've been watching them and listening to them for now, the oldest 2 are 14. And I remember one of the 14-year-olds, when he was 4 years old, I'll never forget him, be lying in bed, and he would say to me, "Papa, I just want to save the world. I just want to save the world." And I thought, he's 4 years old, he's lying in bed, and he wants to save the world. And I thought, and I pursued a little bit with him, well, what do you mean? And how are you going to save the world? And it was almost inconceivable to me that at that age, but not unusual for kids of very young age, to have this concept of selflessness. Now, kids can also be present a lot of problems for parents. I know that because I've been through that. But when you see what their capacity is for being creative, for learning, earning, really, wanting to know so much about what truth really is, what I think about this wonderful initiative to start this school up here, that it is thought of as more of an idea than a place. Yes, they're going to have an interesting classical architecture building, which I think is wonderful. But when you think of education, think of it as an idea, not a building. There's a lot of focus on buildings when it comes to schools, for obvious reasons. But the idea of education is the most important. America, more of an idea than a place. So we tend to think of our 50 states, our map, this wonderful part of the world as well. But when you begin to turn your thought to understanding our country as an idea, and you're put in a position of actually identifying, well, what is this idea? And what is this ideal? This is what needs to be defended and celebrated and supported for its future, because it stands for the freedom and liberty of all people, not just for this geographical set of states. When Reagan gave his last speech, his goodbye speech, after having served 2 terms, when he said, "I've talked a lot through my 8 years about the shining city on a hill in my view of America, but I don't think I've ever described what I saw. What is this city?" One of the most important things related to our being here today was that he said, "I see children happy, playing, and with the freedom to do so." And I'll never forget how he used that in his goodbye speech, and how he saw the shining city on a hill, which we must protect and we must promote. Reagan and many other leaders have shown us this way, and it's our job to perpetuate, to protect, promote, and provide these liberties and freedoms, an opportunity to grow and expand and to fulfill the mission of every child. So thank you for letting me be here and share this wonderful experience with all of you. And I hope you go out into the community and get lots of people signed up for the lottery.
Right at this moment, we have the past and the future acting right now. An individual decision can change the entire course of history. One decision can fundamentally shift the entire course. Opening a school could be the next genius that produces the solution to put a person on Mars. Nowadays, kids get TikTok lessons in 15 seconds on history. So being able to absorb a beautiful speech, there's a level of concentration on a single idea that we want to bring back, and that oratory is very, very important. The ability to take all of history and law and everything you know in constitutional history and then be able to communicate it effectively. And that comes through being able to, like Lincoln, read Shakespeare through and through and be the president of the United States, quoting these great quotes from Macbeth and Julius Caesar and King Lear. That quality is just lost with these 15-second history lessons. We need deep levels of concentration. And I think that's what's really important about what he said. North Star is going to become a beacon. Every student that wants to apply can apply. It's a public lottery. Okay. And the public lottery has to be done by a non-biased person. And the reason we do that is because we want to let everyone know that no matter what your background is, you are welcome to apply. Okay. And you have the same opportunity as any other student. One of the first things that needs to be done, some schools, it's been shown in statistics, schools without cell phones in the class, okay, the teachers are at war with their students. The teachers sometimes are quitting because of the cell phones. You have kids on TikTok in class. You have some students that need a cell phone because they have insulin issues or doctor issues and stuff like that. But schools have been shown that the ones that do not have a policy to keep the cell phones or the access to the internet out of the classroom, the literacy and the total concentration collapses. So that's one of the first steps. You got to create a culture around ideas. And without that kind of level of support for the teacher, they can't teach. They can go home and do all those things. When they go to North Star, we want to make sure they have a solid time of quiet, of concentration. You don't want to just teach Shakespeare and all these great ideas, but you also want the kids to understand how metaphors derive from the life, from lessons, and enjoying the brook. I saw this one funny thing. It was a recipe for children in a cookbook. And what the best recipe for children is, you put them in a field with blue skies, in a brook with pebbles and dogs, little puppies, maybe a bunch of Boston Terriers and pugs. You put all the kids out there, this is a cooking recipe, right? In the hot sun, maybe 85 degrees in the field with the brook and the pebbles. And you let them all loose, and they're playing in the pebbles, the dogs are laughing, and then you can bring them inside after they've been cooked well. And then they can have a cold bath. Ideas come from appreciation. Like all of Shakespeare's metaphors are on the edge of the cliffs of England, looking out over the ships and the waters, and that's where his metaphors were derived from, these really beautiful sceneries that he lived in.